Today we have the wonderful privilege of being in the serene clusters ahead of the World Economic Forum's annual general meetings kicking off tomorrow, and it's a little bit dark already, so that might not be visible, but we will be exploring the topic of leadership in this particular episode, and we're very grateful to have Marina Cvetkovic here today with us. Marina has been on a very interesting journey from the corporate world to having now impact in the corporate world through leadership of C-levels. It's amazing to have you here, Marina. I know I admire your career. When we first met, I said, wow, you're one of the selected coaches of Marshall Goldsmith, and I've read all his books and I admire him. We talk very much about energy. I know you're also a Forbes Council coach, and you're also on the board of Fast Company. So it's a pleasure to talk to you. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So let's kick off this conversation with asking you a little bit about your journey.
Yeah.
So how it started in the corporate world, why it started in the corporate world, and why you decided to shift towards actually educating, teaching, and empowering others through leadership.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that question because it brings me back to really kind of interesting times of my life and my career. But I would say the journey actually started somewhere around the end of my high school. I became really fascinated with the human mind and really considered studying psychology and wrote a thesis in emotional intelligence, and that was many, let's not put a number on it, but many years ago. When emotional intelligence was just coming out, a book by Daniel Goleman. Mm-hmm. And then, there was this rational kind of voice in me saying, but that just seems really hard, dealing with human mind every day, just go study business, do economics, that's what everyone does, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. I studied business, finance, I did all of that, master's, CFA, as you know, and started this sort of somewhat conventional corporate journey in the basically finance world for 10 plus years. And I did that and it was fun, but my heart was never really fully there. Like it's just, I never felt my heart moving, for anything business related, if I'm really honest. Until my last corporate role, which was chief of staff to the CEO. And it was in that role.
Swiss Re.
At Swiss Re it was, yes, in New York, in the Americas. And it was in that role because I was working very closely with the leadership team and with the board that I started becoming like really fascinated with leadership dynamics and different leadership styles. And I would be in all these meetings and I had a lot of time to just sit and observe. And so I would do that. I would sit and observe and it was just fascinating to me, why one leader is more effective than the other. And particularly the CEO that I was working with, he had this like really low touch, super light touch and high impact leadership style that just blew my mind. I just did not know how he did it. And so I started, trying to deconstruct it, like to like kind of uncover the layers, and until at one point I caught myself being more focused on that than what is supposed to be my day job, And then I said, okay, maybe there's, a message in this for me. And that's when I kind of, shifted my career and I said, I love the corporate world. I think they could use a ton of help. And I think I can help them, but I'm going to do this from outside. And that's when I stepped out and then joined one of the big, recruiting coaching firms in New York. And a few years after, then decided to start my own journey, which is when I met my business partner today. And we have our own boutique executive advisory firm based out of Zurich, but working with clients globally. And that's why we are here this week.
So what were the next kind of really impactful events or things you did on the way of finding that this is truly your passion and you want to do it for the rest of your life? Like what were the main
steps? Yeah. So, back then I read a lot of books around kind of finding your passion and your purpose. And I remember I had sleepless nights trying to figure it out because I felt like there is something in this for me, but I couldn't pin what was it, Mm-hmm. That coaching was not coming to my mind at all. So it was like, it took a while until I actually figured out how does my passion for personal growth and development translate into a vocation? Like, without necessarily thinking of psychology and psychiatry or something like that you would have to go back to, big school and medical school and all of that, which I was not so interested in. So it took a lot of sleepless nights to answer your question, a lot of read books. But also what I decided, and at some point coaching came up, and it's not like I knew instantly this is it, but I decided if this could be it, let me take a step closer to it. So what I did is then I just enrolled in a coaching school, in a leadership coaching school in New York. And I said, let me explore this. Worst case scenario is going to be an interesting learning experience, and best case, maybe this is it. At the same time, I was exploring another vocation, and you're gonna laugh, but this is like they could not be further apart, but it was my passion for fashion. And I was exploring to become a fashion stylist. So it was like I was exploring these two paths basically at the same time. So I enrolled in FIT New York, in a personal styling program, and at the same time I enrolled in a coaching school. And I said, okay, well, hopefully, coming a step closer will help me. And indeed it did. Because while I really enjoyed my personal styling course, it was just like, it was fun. It was a hobby. It was something, my heart was like not really, I was not moved by it. But going into the first weekend, kind of longer weekend retreat with my coaching school, I knew immediately that this is it. Just the power of that impact, that level of impact that, you can... I've never experienced before in my career, right? And that just really moved me, the idea that I can do this on a daily basis, and that could be my job. Yeah. So yeah, that's how it started. But I took a step closer. I explored a couple of paths at the same time. All along being still in my corporate job. So I was still, and then starting to slowly merge the paths. So I started coaching more people internally at Swiss Re. I started sharing that this is something that I do now, that I'm passionate about, bringing more of that into my job as much as I could. But of course, at some point, there is a conflict of interest, given that I was the chief of staff to the CEO. So there's only so much trust that people would, of course, put in me. And trust is so essential, and confidentiality, as you know, for the coaching success. So it was time for me at some point to step out and really focus on this fully, but that was the journey.
And thank you for sharing that, because I believe so many people kind of in their hearts know where their passion may lie, but haven't explored that path yet.
Yeah.
And I believe this will be very helpful to those individuals, because it's always like these mini steps where let's explore it and let's see how my heart and whether I light up, whether I fire up by doing it. So I think this was very helpful. I know that your coaching style...
Before you continue, Elena, just to add to that, like when you speak of those individuals, because I can really relate to that. I was definitely at that point. What really helped me is a quote I read once that someone said, listen carefully, because your dreams, they don't scream at you, they whisper. And so that really helped me, because sometimes we have this idea that we're going to wake up and all of a sudden we're going to know what we're meant to do in this world. And I mean, for most of us, it's not like that. It's a very earthy process of getting there, of just exploring. But it takes a certain courage and maybe a little bit of craziness to say, hey, I'm going to explore this now. And who cares, Maybe I can be a fashion stylist. I mean, now looking back, how crazy was that? But I wanted to give myself the chance to explore, And I think that's unfortunately the opportunity we often don't give to ourselves. We just stop too early in the process, thinking that it's just ridiculous.
And that's why courage is so important. But I can really relate to what you said about it's not you don't wake up doing your passion and purpose in life. You take slow steps there. So I know that your coaching, and this is also leadership style, is very holistic.
Yeah.
It's not just looking at any area or any one style. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So, I mean, on this journey, right, it's like it was a very early step to say, hey, I want to be a coach, and more specifically, I want to be an executive coach. I want to work with the type of clients that I know really well inside out. I understand the dynamics, and then just bring this other angle to it. And I found that the combination of my business background and coaching was very helpful to them and was my sweet spot in a way. So that was the kind of the first step. And then it took a bit of time to then find my style within that. Because as you know, the coaching world is sometimes like the wild, wild west. Like there's, all sorts of things one can find there. But from the beginning on, I knew while I wanted to kind of touch people through the corporate angle, I wanted my impact to be felt, in all areas of their life, right? So it's more like an entry point, right? That kind of qualified whether you're an executive coach or what else. But it was always the holistic impact that I was striving for. And then when I started my own company, I had the opportunity to really, truly define my style and my approach, because before that, it's always somewhat limited depending on which company you work for. And that's where Nicole and I, my partner and I, kind of sat down and designed it basically together. And it's a leadership alliance program that it's called, and we work with executives and executive teams on a very holistic basis, by basically touching everything, from their vision to mission to how they work together, their mindset, the behaviors, everything. I think in the coaching world, you often just touch on the behaviors, which is kind of the symptom, how it shows up, Let's learn how to better give feedback to each other. Let's learn how to, and it's okay, right? That type of punctual coaching, but the impact that we were striving for is always like, can we help them make a true shift from inside out, such that when we walk away, we know that impact is there to stay, for that team, for that organization, but more importantly for each and every one of them, for the rest of their lives. And we see that, when we work with clients, we would meet them a few years later and to see them apply the same principles and to still not only be changed as to where we left them, but to continue that trajectory on their own, because it moved them so much. It just still blows my mind, and makes me want to do this, every day. And so yeah, it's quite something.
And that's so beautiful to hear. And I believe that actually your clients actually selected you for a very amazing award, which actually is back to the feedback and the impact you're having. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how it actually distributes for others to also hear about your work?
Thank you for that shout out. It's our clients, we are really blessed. As I said, we're a boutique, and we actually don't work with that many clients, which actually makes this more it's a bigger news, I would say, because we work with very few clients at the time, because it's quite an in-depth process that we go into with them. And they've nominated us for the CEO Today Coach of the Year award 2 years in a row now, and that is just really humbling, and it's just it's the best feedback you can get, right? So,
which is also amazing to see where the journey takes you. Now, if we dive a little bit into the impact, is there maybe 1 or 3 instances where you can say, here we've really been able to make an impact that's visible also to the world? It's bringing I don't know, women together, also like stepping up, or it's bringing also leaders thinking about climate change, although this has nothing to do with coaching, or is there something about where we're also embracing technology for good in our coaching? Because I know your approach is very holistic, so I'm sure there must be instances.
Yes, oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's the reason why we're here this week, because already a few years ago, Nicole and I, we sit down every year, at least once a year, but sometimes twice a year, for a whole week, and we rethink our strategy and our approach and our philosophy. And we said, from now on, we really want to work with leaders who are looking beyond profit. And so it was a somewhat sensitive and courageous decision to make, because our clients are corporate clients. And so within that, we decided to step up and say, hey, what is really our impact? Well, we impact the world through these few individuals that we touch. And if that is our impact, we need to be super, super mindful who we choose to work with, because that's our impact. We can only work with so many, It's a very high touch personal approach. it's not something you can put in an online program, right, and then multiply. And so we decided to make that decision to work with leaders who are willing and eager to learn how to lead beyond profit and to find ways how to lead beyond profit. And so, it's ESG, but it's bigger than that. It's like, how do we bring profit and purpose together? Because we found that in a lot of conversations that we were having with leaders, there was this notion of like, it's one or the other, and if I go for purpose or impact, I have to then compromise on the profit side and the other way around. And we said, it really does not have to be this way. This is not a win-lose world, it is a win-win world if we want to look at it as such. But we have to change the way we look at things quite radically from a much earlier standpoint. And so we work with leaders who do just that, who have a purpose that goes beyond profit. Profit is an element to it, but actually most of our coaching is around that purpose beyond, because most of the executives we work with, they're really good at meeting their financial targets. They don't really need help there. But this is a new lens to many of them, and that's where we find a lot of them struggle a little bit. The will is there, but the tools are sometimes missing on how to fully integrate it and make it part of the holistic approach, rather than a separate ESG agenda that we're just trying to tick the boxes on, for the annual report. And so that's what we do, and that's why we're super, passionate about coming here, to the WEF, because the whole, all the conversations are around that. And in fact, we're moderating a CEO panel this week that is exactly on that. It's about leading beyond profit, right? And how do we do that? And so I'm curious to hear what they say, but it's just the thinking evolves, but it's still quite early for most CEOs, and it's nice to see more and more of them stepping up and being able to and willing to engage in that dialogue, somewhat humbling dialogue of like, I don't really know how to do this, and can we learn from each other?
Yes, I think it's very important. We actually, just to bring this topic up because it's so essential to dance, we actually started our learning experiences with Paul Polman exactly for this reason.
Yes.
Because he's such a wonderful example to bringing purpose with profit. However, the trajectory we are currently going on, if our minds stay focused on scarcity resources and therefore profit, we will probably not make it where we need to make it for the entire world to be on a positive trajectory. So Marina, what would be a positive, successful, impact-driven WEF week for you?
It's a good question. Last year we were there, and we were there more in the capacity of like observing and joining the conversations, but more from a participant angle. And we set it as a goal that this year we want to be someone who starts the conversation. We found that there was perhaps not enough conversation around the importance of leadership in achieving the SDGs, and just the importance of discussing just how the human mind works and the changes that need to happen in the mindset for us to achieve all these aspirational goals, and especially to achieve them much faster, which is what everyone is eager to see, And we strongly believe that is impossible, that kind of acceleration, without a radical mindset shift. And so we said, we need to have some conversations here, and so that's what we're doing this week. Tuesday, I'll be at the Greek House having a conversation around the impact of board leadership for better future, for inclusive growth. And we're also launching a really inspiring book called Standing Up for the Planet, where 45 amazing women wrote their stories of how they're doing that in their daily jobs and daily work. And so
Congratulations.
Thank you. It is really, really inspiring to see them and to read them. And so Nicole and I will be there because we wrote one of the stories, our story. And then Wednesday we will be having a CEO panel on leading beyond profit. So we are, starting that conversation as well. So I'm really excited to see what this week brings. And then Thursday is all about ecosystems in a fragmented world, and we'll be joining the dance event, which we're very much looking forward to.
How can everybody benefit from coaching? I very often find, even with dance members and others, that I'm 100% supporter of coaching, and people are sometimes scared.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice to them?
You know, this is what I say to people when they've never experienced coaching. I always say, I really wish for everyone to experience the gift of coaching as a tool, as a process, just to experience it once and then decide for yourself, whether it's a tool you want to put in your toolbox, and as some of us, keep it for the rest of your life. I mean, I always have a coach, at least one around, helping me out on my journey and our journey.
Because I saw you smile.
Yeah, I mean, usually a couple, to be honest, at the same time, working on different areas of my life and different, priorities, but as well as us in business as well, we have coaches who help us out, because it's impossible to coach yourself even as a coach. And I just think, give it a try. There's really nothing to lose. And it's just, for most of us who've experienced it, we never want to go back to not having a coach, right? It's just a really, really helpful tool for self-discovery, self-development, support, emotional support. And I think, give it a try.
Yes, thank you. So I want to thank you for taking the time today during super busy week to speak to us.
Welcome.
We are very grateful to have you, Marina, and we can't wait to see where the journey takes us.
Thank you, Elena, for having me.